It's so good to see your faces. Yeah, I don't really know why you guys, hide behind and switch off your cameras. Uh, just try and be interactive. People like say hi. Is there
Hello, sir.
anybody saying hi? Right?
Hi
Hello.
sir, hello sir.
Great, great, great. So, what I understand is everybody is here to learn, right? So, it is really great if at least we can have a session like we used to have in classes, right? If everybody has their videos of I can actually not read your expressions, like if I'm joking and are you guys laughing or not, and that is very weird to me, right? So it's really nice to see your faces again. Yeah, so now I know that my joke was, at least it made some people smile here. That's nice. Great. So I think we should get started, right? Your friends may come and join us, right? And in the lecture for sure. The first initial part is introductory part only. Uh, Let me introduce myself. My name is Vinay Kalra, and I'm founder to Quadbitech and CTO to FinStreet, right? And for you guys, for all the developers, welcome to Blockstreet, right? But and as well as along with me, Soradeep Das. He is the blockchain developer for OMG Network, and he's responsible for creating Plasma rollups for OMG networks, right? Saurabh, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure thing. My voice is perfect already. Um, Good. So you might see me on a different screen, and I'm using a different mic on a different device. Sorry for that. But yeah, let's get started. Super excited. So I'm Soradeep, as Vinayak mentioned. So I work at OMG Network, where I get to work with a lot of these scalability solutions, which we're going to learn about today. Um, about super exciting job about increasing the efficiency of Ethereum and making higher transactions per second, or making Ethereum better. And to give a bit of background about myself, I just like yourself, I started back in my college days. Back in 2018, I was a student developer. I uh, came to know about the Bitcoin white paper, and that really led me to smart contracts and how Ethereum works. Um, and after
Saurabh,
that, yeah.
to add on to this point, can you explain a bit like how were you able to get started, being a college student, right? And how what was the first thing that you did like to get started in the blockchain development? I think this is something that will help each and every one of them here. Everyone right now here, has this question in mind, like how should I get started? So what was your starting point?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. So the first starting point is just have to probably learn something and then implement it. So as soon as you start building something or trying your hands out, making your hands dirty, you're gonna get it. And it's not gonna come in a single go. It's gonna be
Right,
gradual. So once you keep learning and then implement all those stuff, it's super
right,
easy and take small steps, and make your way through this like deep journey of blockchains and Ethereum.
right.
Uh, yeah,
So here I'll also add on to one thing. Like when I started, right? So I started by watching the prices of Bitcoin and Ethereum. Like I'll be very honest with everybody here. So I started by watching the prices of Bitcoin and Ethereum and to see, where these prices are going. Oh my God, how much money has been made here, right? So that was my motive. Like let's understand what's exactly behind, so much of money, so much of market cap, that so trillions of dollars, where billions of dollars that are being logged into, such great code that's been written. Like what exactly is the secret behind it? So what I started doing was like I started development on Bitcoin first, right? And then I understood that Bitcoin is something that is, relatively quite tough. So that there, what happened was, I got a feedback for myself, like, okay, Bitcoin is a bit tough because there was not much documentation available back then. Like when I started, it was in I think 2017 I started, right? So there was not much available at that particular time. So something like the idea got dropped, right? Then eventually, as soon as I was moving further in my own career, and then we started something on blockchain itself. Then we started building on Ethereum network, Ethereum chain, and Ethereum was something that was comparatively easier than Bitcoin and scalable too. So this was my journey as to it obviously it started by watching the prices for sure, right? And definitely, I think Sauradeep will, agree with me that it is like the most rewarding technology right now. Blockchain is the most rewarding. Everybody, wants to get a piece of it. A lot of new openings are available for blockchain developers. Just go ahead and see it, right? And that too, paying a lot of money as well to the developers. Now, if you are able to crack it, right, and you can definitely get placed in a very, very good company. So this is our motive right now, right? So if you guys are interested, in earning good, right, as well as in, learning about a new technology, this lecture is for you, right? So stay tuned. What we'll try to do is we'll try to, let you guys know about each and every small basics of blockchain development, right? uh, so that you guys can, be accustomed to it. So let's, as I've already told you guys, let's keep this session interactive, right? You can always post your views related to the topic, please, on the in the chat box. I do not really want, two of the persons here interacting with each other and everybody seeing that. Please don't do that, right? So a quick question for everybody: how many of you have heard about blockchain development before Blockstreet reached out to you guys? Can we have, a quick yes or no in the chat box? Like, I'll really love if people are interactive here, right? And a lot of people, answer here, so that, I'll get to know that how many of you are actually interested in becoming a, blockchain developer. Okay, a lot of yes. So it's not that many replies as many people are here. Guys, come on, be interactive. I think a lot of you. Okay. Okay. All right. So a lot of yes and a no. Okay. So if for those people who have said yes, okay, still there, these are coming in. Now that is nice. That is nice. Please stay in the chat box. Keep on typing. I'll keep on asking questions. Right. Let's try and keep this session as interactive as possible. How many of you have actually developed on a blockchain, like, or maybe read the tutorials of it, like of Bitcoin or maybe Ethereum or any other chain, right? A yes or a no. Quick yes or a no. Okay. Now I can't really say no, never. Okay. 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 A lot of no's, but a few yes. Okay. I watched a few videos on Ethereum Solidity. That is nice. Okay. Okay. Great. So a lot of people have not really, worked on it, but there are definitely a few people. We can definitely, those few people will try to do is will try to answer if they have some queries related to the session, or maybe, after the session, if they want to get connected with us, for sure, we can help you guys out, right? For those who have this no here, right? Okay, there is a person who has written a smart contract in Ethereum as well. Great. So those of you who have not really done anything right now, or, what we are here to tell you guys is about, how to get started on it, and what is the basic, technology behind it, right? So let me, share my slides. Let me tell you guys, like, what exactly is it that we'll be learning in this session. I'll keep on asking question, guys. So, definitely, type. That is the utmost important thing in this session. Just be interactive so that I know that if you guys are understanding or not, right? So what we'll study in this session is what are the basics of a blockchain, right? And the uses of a blockchain. Like, we'll cover DeFi, NFT, all of those things in the uses of blockchain. Some of you might have heard these terms, right? But we'll try to tell you guys is very crisp and very brief introduction of almost every aspect, and to tell you, like, from where can you get started, right? Then after that, we'll focus on the basic building blocks of Ethereum, right? Why we have chosen Ethereum for this session, we'll come to that later, when we will discuss about Ethereum, right? And how, as a developer, can you get started? The big question that we'll try and answer, right? So what exactly is blockchain, right? So if I have to speak very simply, what blockchain exactly is, it is a unique type of database. That's it, right? I think a lot of you might have developed on Android apps or on websites, right? So let's have another quick question, please. type yes if you have developed an application or maybe a web app or a website, something like that, or maybe even had the tutorials for it, right? Type yes for that. Now this is an audience that I really love. Nice. Nice. Great. So some people, definitely they stepped out of their curriculum and did that. Awesome. Awesome. Really, really nice. Great work, guys. I've never had such a response, to be very honest. Right? Definitely great. So a lot of people have done that, right? So what I'll try to do is I'll try to give you guys an analog as to web apps and Android apps that you guys have developed, right? And try to compare it with the blockchain system, right? So okay, and let's start, right? What I'll try to do right now is we'll try to understand the basics of a blockchain, like what forms the basics of a blockchain. So this is an open source code here, right, by Anders Brownworth. So this is specifically for the purposes of teaching blockchain, right? So what better to but better instance rather than to use it right now, right? So let me tell you guys about the constituents that are contained in a blockchain, right? So one of the thing is hash. Now what we say that blockchain is a secure and decentralized network, right? So how was it able to get secure, or how was it able to be decentralized? We'll talk about that right now, right? So security is achieved by hash, right? Hashes are nothing but a one-way cryptographical functions where you feed in data and then a hash is generated, that is a 32 bits, right? 32 bytes, right? And this right now this is because it's of 256 bit to SSA 256, right? So this hash, once generated, it cannot be reversed back. So you can enter data and generate the hash using this function. This is a base. You can have this function in any of the coding languages that you want. Like you can have it in Java, you can have it in C. Cryptographical functions and their libraries are available everywhere. If a lot of people might be well aware with Node.js, right? Because you guys have developed websites and all that. So JavaScript is something that you guys are all aware of. So there is a library to get the data from the to get the hash from the data in JavaScript as well, right? So what you need to do is just feed the data and get the hash value. So but how is this secure? It's secure because if you have this hash value, you just cannot get the data out of it. It is possible, yes, to get the data, but it will need a lot of computing power that you, me, or any such developer might not have with him, right? So it's practically impossible. This is what the term that we use, like practically it is impossible to get the data out of hash. So this is how the data inside a chain is secure. It is stored in the form of hashes, right? So now let's talk about as the blockchain word symbolizes, it's a chain of blocks, right? So what we need to understand first to understand blockchain is a block, right? And the values that there are in the block. So here, a block contains a block height, a nonce, a data, and hash. Now these are very basic terms that that are being shown here only for the basis of understanding a block. But when you see a block in actual, like the JSON object of a block, then you'll see that there are a lot more values than there are here. It's just for the understanding of a block, right? So block height is nothing but the block number. Like if this is the first block, the second block will have 2 here, third block will have 3 here, and so on and so forth, right? This nonce, what this nonce does is now this nonce is helpful in the process of mining. Like we'll come to nonce when we'll try and understand what mining actually is, right? And then we'll talk about nonce as well. Right now, for information's sake, it's an integer, right? And data, obviously, you can basically store anything here in the data. Like you can store transactions here, you can store code here, or you can store some data here, or you can store images, you can store videos, or anything. So as I have already told you guys before, this is just the method of storage. This is just a unique method of seeing the data. That's it, right? Nothing else. you can just compare it to your MySQL databases, right? You're just storing a data, right? And you have an auto incremental number here, right? And a nonce, like this is a basically a random integer, right? And a hash that is being converted from all of this data. This whole data is fed as JSON to the data, and then a hash is being generated for this particular block, right? So if you mine it, this hash will be finalized. Now, when you mine a block, what happens is this particular block is being added to the chain, to the blockchain, right? When you mine it. So what happens when we mine it? So when we mine it, what miners generally have to do, if I have to talk about it technically, not really logically, when we mine it, what happens is that the miners have to guess this nonce, and they are given this hash, right? So they have to guess the nonce of the whole data. What exactly is the nonce value? So this is the usage of nonce. Basically, miners need to guess it while mining the page. Right now, it's not really working. But what should happen is that this block should turn green, right? So this is what a block is. Now, if we, all right, just a minute. So let's talk about what exactly is a blockchain. Now, if you understand a blockchain is nothing different but a series of these blocks, right? Right. So what blockchain exactly is a series of these blocks and linked via their hashes. How? Like if this particular block has a hash, has this as its hash, right? So the next block will be linked via this block, by this variable. Now this is previous hash, right? So all of these blocks are basically linked via previous hashes. So that's how a blockchain is formed. You can compare this to your linked list as well. You just need to compare it. Please do not equalize it. This is not an equal to here. This is just a comparison, right? And you can basically think of it as a linked list where the previous element is being linked to the next element, right? So here what happens is it's linked via hashes, right? And right now, if you see, now all of these blocks are mined and all of these blocks are red. So what will happen if I change the data in this block? Right? If I change the data in this block, what happens is that the two blocks, the second number and the third number, they both got invalidated. It was not just this block that was invalidated, but this as well, because when calculating the hash, the data is included in while calculating the hash, or for that matter, any of these variables are included. So any of these variables, if they change, the hash of the block changes, and it won't match the previous hash of this particular block. So the whole chain after this block gets invalidated. So what will happen, what happens right now is like, if we talk about our banking system, now this is a very standard example, right? So if we talk about a banking system, supposedly, you did a transaction a week ago, right? And right now you are doing some transactions, right? But what can happen is that, I can go into the database, right? Hypothetically, I can go into the database and I can change the data, hypothetically, right? I can change the data here, and maybe I can credit myself a lakh, right? Let me credit myself a 1 lakh rupee, right? And nothing will change. Like all my transactions now, that are there, that are going right now, those won't change or those won't invalidate, right? Instead, what will happen is that I'll have a 1 lakh rupee in my account at the end of the day. Now this is what banking system right now is, because what we're doing is we're running on centralized servers and MySQL databases. You guys can relate it, right? So why is this important? Why is blockchain important? So what blockchain actually can do is that if you go and change the previous data and try to give yourself money for that matter, right? What will happen is that the whole chain will be invalidated. Right, the network will know that something has attacked this particular block, and the whole chain ahead of it will be invalidated. The transactions will be declined, all of them. If not, it won't be reversed. It will be cancelled. That's it, right? So this cannot really happen. This should not really happen, and this does not really happen because a lot of computing power is needed to actually go back and change the data that is there in the block, and then you'll have to revalidate all the blocks, or else a chain will be formed from here on. Like if such a thing happens, what happens is that a new chain is formed again, and then that particular chain is something that takes turns from here on forward. So this is how things happen in a blockchain. So this is the security that a blockchain provides you, right? All the transactions once done cannot be reversed. Like once confirmed, they won't be reversed at all. It's quite difficult to do that, and practically impossible to do that, right? So this is the security of blockchain, right? And how is it, basically, but there is one more thing that I want to show you guys here. uh, this data can actually have anything, as I've told you guys, right? So what we can have here is transactions. What we can have here is code, even to execute that code, right? Ethereum has that. Ethereum has EVM, and what we can do is we can deploy code here, right? For Ethereum chain. So we'll come to that. We'll have this discussion, in depth when we come to Ethereum, that how EVM actually works and how this code is actually being executed. Like when we'll talk about smart contracts. So right now, but in the case of Bitcoin, what this data is mere transactions, only transactions, right? And these transactions generally, they are monetary transactions only. So supposedly I give you money, right? All of those things. So this is how a blockchain is actually formed. So this data is stored in this particular way. I think a lot of you might be able to get a picture of rows and columns here, like in your MySQL databases. It's just that it's not just one database. Now let's talk about the concept of decentralization here, right? So what happens is generally now, if now this particular chain, right, and this particular chain, now if we have these are basically, what happens is these are peers, right? But we can say that these are nodes, right? If we invalidate one particular node, what will happen is the another node will also will have to sync the data with another node. Now what are nodes? So because I've already told you guys, this is a very unique way of storage of data. So what nodes do is they store this data, the whole data, all the blocks that there are, right? If anybody has ever run a Bitcoin Core client, they might know that it requires a lot of storage. Like you might need a lot of GBs to store the data of these chains. So all of these data are in their specific format is being downloaded into your PC when you try and run a node, right? So what happens is that the data from the first block height to the latest block height is being downloaded, right? And now this data is being there. It actually can be in my PC, it can be in your PC, it can be in, if all of us are attending a lecture, it could be in any one of our PCs, right? So what happens is that the data right now is then decentralized. It's in all the PCs, all the nodes that there are, all the different nodes, right? So this is how we achieve decentralization. There is no one central server where we can go and change it. We have to change the data in all the nodes that there are, right? So this is the decentralization of data, where the data is not centralized but in the hands of you, me, right, and all of us. So this is what is achieved using blockchain specifically, right? Security and decentralization, these two things majorly. I think I've covered a lot of these basics of blockchain, right? Can we have a quick yes or no if everybody understood this? Like if a quick yes or no, please. That if everybody has understood this, then we can move forward. Okay, nice. I think almost okay. There are maybe more than 60 yes. Great, great. A lot of people are interested. Let's keep it that way, shall we? All right. You can ask your questions at the end of the session if you want. You can ask it right here as well. If I see that question, I'll try and reply to it, right? Or else we'll take the questions in the end as well. Don't worry about it. We'll try to clarify as much as possible here. Great, great, great. There is a yes as well. Hello. Yes. Okay. Let's not pronounce that. Ritik. Okay. Great. And let's move forward then. Right. I think everybody has understood what blockchain exactly is. Now let's talk about some of the uses of blockchain. Right. So I've already told you guys about DeFi and NFT, right? Like we have DeFi, we have NFT. Now, these are terms I think a lot of you might have heard. Like, can we have a quick yes or no for this as well? Like who have heard about DeFi or NFT, right? Can we have a yes? Okay, DeFi. Okay, a lot of people have heard it. Okay, NFT, yes. Okay, okay, good, good. DeFi, no. Okay, let's try to create a basic understanding of these two. What I'll do is I'll try to give some of the use cases of it, and some basic understanding of what DeFi is and what NFT is, right? So that we have a better picture around us, that what exactly is DeFi and what exactly is NFT, and how can we, actually pursue them, right? So let me give you this example for DeFi, right? DeFi Pulse, right? This everybody can go to this particular website, but this has is a lot of DeFi projects that are being built, right? So before I tell you guys what DeFi is, let's have a look at what DeFi has done, right? Just have a look at all of uh, these protocols, right? SushiSwap, Aave, a lot of these might be, you guys might have even heard of Compound, Uniswap, and all of those things. Like this is a DEX, Uniswap, decentralized exchange. Now people are actually building exchanges that are decentralized, right? Just think about that, like how powerful that is. Just create an NSE and BSC and make it decentralized. Wow, right? Something like that has been done by Uniswap. And look at this B is nothing, this is billions, right? Billions of dollars. How now, this billions of dollars, this value has been based on the code that these guys have. These are protocols, and this is the value locked in these protocols, right? And these protocols are something like, these are smart contracts that are being built on Ethereum or any other chain. Mostly Ethereum, as you can see, like mostly Ethereum. Now this is the basis why we are covering Ethereum in this lecture. Like this is the thing for the developers, for the future developers that we have here, right? And this is the value that is being logged in all these protocols. Now this is the value that has been created by developers, right now. There are not many marketing firms that are available in this space. Now this value, the whole, like it's very uniform, and it has been created by developers, people like you, right? People like you have created that. And I believe like every one of you has a potential to be here, like to create something like this, right? And being a part of this prestigious institute as well, like, right, being a part of NIT, you guys are already more than capable of being here in this position. So what I want to do is, I'll try to do is, at least I'll make if there are 100 people here in this conversation today, what I'll try to do is, I'll have at least 10 of you people, if 10 of you guys get started in building something, at least something, that will be a win for me today. So this is what my motive is for today's lecture, right? Let's talk about what DeFi is. Now, a lot of people might understand like DeFi is decentralized finance. The example that I gave you guys about banks, right? When I can go back and change my entry, and I can basically credit a 1 lakh rupee into my account, right? So this is something that is a problem, right? A lot of people have actually faced it as well. A lot of companies are facing such a problem where they have centralized data, and it is not hack prone. Basically hackers can go and take that data out. You might have heard about a lot of scams that happen here in banking system, where people can, where hackers are generally they are smart enough to take some money out of the bank, just by changing the transactions. That's it, right? So with such a system where we are centralized, what DeFi does is that it makes the finance part of things decentralized, right? Where you can where the data is public, right? And it is decentralized. It is in the hands of you and me. We store the data, not a central authority. This is the basic concept around DeFi. Just remove the centralized servers, and go towards the node system, where the data is being spread through nodes, through various nodes, with different people. So this is decentralized finance. the two words, right? And all of these things that you are seeing, all of these things, they have features in DeFi, decentralized finance. Now, all of these are not just one thing, right? You can see some DEXs here, or you can see some lending protocols here, right? And a lot of things, derivatives as well, synthetics or derivatives exchange. All of these things, these are very, very different different protocols or different applications of decentralized finance, right? So just imagine, lending happening using decentralized finance. So some these protocols are actually working towards that. How good that is. So have a read about all of them, and let's see, see about, but you guys can figure out regarding decentralized finance. So this was the basic of decentralized finance. It's not, rocket science here. It's just the applications that are a bit confusing, but once you get to read about it, you'll understand what DeFi exactly is. Keeping in mind that this is just, finance which is decentralized, not in a central authority, right? And then let's talk about NFT, right? And what NFT actually is. Let me give you guys a very basic example, like what NFT and NFT basically means non-fungible token, NFT, right? Non-fungible token. There are two types of tokens, fungible tokens and non-fungible tokens. If I am to explain it in very layman language, some people might find it boring, but let's give an example here. Fungible tokens. If you go to a market and give a 100 rupee note, right? And you can ask the shopkeeper to give you guys like 10 rupee notes, right? So that 100 rupee note has the same value as those 10 rupee notes. So that 100 rupee note is basically fungible. It can be converted into basic units, and have the same value as 10 rupee notes, right? So this is fungible. And if you create an art, maybe, right, those art pieces, those are something that are unique to you. Like, replicating an art is very tough, right? And if you even replicate one, or maybe, if you even replicate one, the owner might be different, right? If you are the owner of that particular art, right, supposedly that art could be basically anything. Right now it's even tweets of people, right? That the people that have tweeted it, and they have created that particular tweet, and then what they do is they create an NFT out of it, a non-fungible token out of it, because an art cannot be broken down to pieces, right, as money could, right? So this helps. NFT, it helps in such kind of things. So if you see here, OpenSea.io, we have a marketplace for NFTs. All of these are design things, right? A lot of you might be designers as well. Yeah, I don't really know, like, how many of you guys love designing. What you can do is you can come here, post your designs, just have a look at what the price is, and considering that this is in Ethereum, right? So considering that 1 Ether right now is of, I think, maybe somewhere around maybe $1,800, I think. So this is just calculate it, right? How many dollars this is, and this particular art piece is it's being sold, basically, right? And the people even like such art pieces here. There are case studies of CryptoKitties and all those things. We'll come to that later, definitely, and when we take care of the limitations that are there on the Ethereum network. So this is what NFT is, right? So this is one of the use cases that we have here, and the other one is DeFi. And definitely cross-border payments. Like if I'm sitting right here, I can send money to USA, maybe Canada, right? And I don't really have to go through a lot of intermediaries in between, like banks and all those stuff. Like they even deduct fees and all those things. But right now fees are also coherent when it comes to cross-border payments for Bitcoin or Ethereum, for the matter any coin, right? The fees of transaction remains the same regardless of where the peer is lying, right? So cross-border payments are very easy, and even the payments, they do not really need extra charges on it, right? And supply chain and logistic monitoring. But supply chain is something that is very, very messy, something that could be controlled using blockchain when the data is made public, right? And Luxo is one of the one of the companies that is actually working on supply chain logistic monitoring. That's last I heard, right? Once they have successfully done that, definitely we can even take that case study as well in this lecture, right? So there are two more terms as to what is Web 2 and what is Web 3, right? A lot of people are saying Web 3 is really cool, Web 2 is that, and Web 1 definitely nobody even talks about Web 1. uh, right now. No, these are three terms. Let me try and explain it to you. Like, what are these three terms? So, Web 1 is nothing but basic HTML, CSS stuff. Like, I'll be very straightforward here. What Web 1 is, Web 2 is. Web 2 included cloud computing, where we can actually have servers, like centralized servers, and then uh, from the cloud, the data was the data it spread. Like, and Web 2, using Web 2, a lot of companies prospered, like the social media sites that we have, right? Facebook and all those things. Any website that you have been to right now, or any application that you have been to right now, follows Web 2 structure. In Web 3, how it differs from Web 2 is that the data is decentralized. Not any central authority has control over the data, right? It's decentralized, and it's the power is it has been taken away from the companies and given to people, right? Now that is what Web3 actually is, right? And uh, Web3 was only able to stay in place because of smart contracts, because smart contracts were able to bring a decentralized data structure and decentralized computing of things, right? So all of these things that you see are those, right? Ethereum was definitely one of the most prominent you can say member of bringing Web 3.0 into place, right? Where we can actually compute data while storing it decentralized, in a decentralized way, right? So how was that actually possible, right? So in Ethereum, what actually happens is that Ethereum is a programmable chain, where we, as I've already told you guys, right? Moving back to that particular example, where we can actually store code instead of data in the blocks, right? Uh, Let me see. Right, in these blocks, what will happen if we can store code here and then we can execute that code? Like, this is what Ethereum has actually done, right? So this is how it differs from all the other chain. Ethereum has EVM, right? Ethereum virtual machine, what it does is it executes the code that is there in those blocks and returns an output, right? It takes an input, definitely it returns an output. So this is what codes are meant to do, right? And how is this able to do that? Using smart contracts. Now, smart contracts are deployed in a very similar way as you deploy transactions, as these transactions are there. So what exactly stored is the ABI and the bytecode of these smart contracts. Now we'll not go there. You can just say that these are outputs while compiling it, right? Everybody knows what code compilation is. Now these are outputs while compiling it, while compiling a smart contract, right? And compilation gives you ABI, and right, that is what exactly is stored on the Ethereum chain. Now ABI, what you will see is mostly like functions and stuff, right? I don't really have right now to show it to you guys, but you can just simply say that that particular code that is being deployed there is being executed by EVM, right? And this is how a contract looks like. This is what that data would be, right? And this is how a smart contract actually looks like. A lot of you might even see that this is not really that different than Java, right? Where you can write classes and stuff, right? And it's very similar to that. You just, what I can understand is, if you guys have built applications and web apps, right, you can just understand Solidity in a matter of days. You just need 2 days to understand what Solidity actually is. Right now, this is built on, smart contracts are generally built on Solidity. A lot of you might, I think a few people have already done Solidity, so they might really connect with this, what exactly I'm saying, right? So what you do is you compile it, you generate ABI, bytecode and ABIs, right? And then using that, what you do is you basically, using the smart contract addresses that you have, you then again, make transactions to those smart contract. Now, what this does is, this basically stores the data and gets the data. It's as simple as that. Chains are nothing more. It's just about storage of data, unique purpose of storage of data. Now, what this code is doing is also storing a data only, right? It's just that we can compute on that data and then get a different value if needed. It's just that Ethereum does that. So this is the only basic difference of Ethereum and all the other chains. Not all the other chains, definitely Bitcoin, where we have just transactions there, right? And this is what a smart contract looks like, and this is how the development happens on Ethereum, right? So you, being a developer, can actually create these smart contracts. Like I've shown you these, right? And all of these are basically are nothing but smart contracts. They are there. People have actually created dexes. Just think about it. Creating something like a decentralized exchange of things, like, right, of coins on such a platform. It's possible because it's nothing but storage of data. You just have to think about it in this way, that just remove the centralized data from your mind and go towards the decentralized data, right? That is it. The storage is the one that is different. The functionalities are not that different. It remains mostly similar to everything, right? The storage is the one that is different. And smart contracts are something that is one that should get started with. A lot of people that messaged in the chat box have said that they have built smart contracts. Now this is why I think they'll be even pursuing blockchain development even further, because they were able to do that. Now this is a task of a day or two. What I'll suggest everybody here is run through a tutorial of how to build a smart contract on YouTube, or we'll even share some of the resources that we have with us on how to build a smart contract and deploy it. Just do that. This is a task of a day or two, and this is something that will get you started in blockchain development, because you'll get to know that how tough or how easy is it to build on chain. Right now, let's talk about some of the limitations that Ethereum network has. What I suggest is, Sauradeep can take the limitations of Ethereum network, because OMG specifically is working on, OMG being a very reputed company here in India. It's actually working on catering to the limitations that are there in the Ethereum network, right, and providing solutions to it. So Sauradeep, over to you.
Sure thing. Thanks, Vinayak. That was super.
Thank you.
Hope you all are super excited about this section. So I'll just try to keep it as simple as possible, and you can always interrupt me with questions whenever you want to. So feel free to do that. So okay, with Crisp, and so we learned about a lot of things today, right? We learned about what blocks consist of and what transactions are, and then we noticed how Ethereum was different, what Ethereum brought in. For example, smart contracts, the keyword there, and solidity and all those stuff. Now, Vinayak told you about a lot of sweet things about blockchain, and I'm gonna be bit pessimistic, and I'm gonna say that blockchain is all good. There's decentralization and all those new tech stuff, but then it's not as easy to use, right? And then there are these small problems which blockchain has, which stops people like you and me from using it. So for example, I'll give you a simple example. If you wanted to transact on Ethereum, you're going to have to pay a transaction fee, which we also call the gas. And that's a kind of limitation, because the gas fee is not a constant. So let's say you have a website where for every transaction you need to pay 10 rupees or 20 rupees. That's perfectly fine. But in a distributed system like Ethereum, you pay for what you use or how much computation you use. And not just that, you also pay, but you also compete with other people to make your transactions go in faster. So essentially what that means is, in simpler language, that you'll have to pay more when the network is clogged or when there are several transactions in the network, because you'll have to compete with other people to prioritize your transaction than probably someone else's. And this is the scalability problem of Ethereum. And Ethereum currently experiences a lot of high gas fees when there's a large number of transactions that go in. For example, we talked about NFTs, right? You might have heard about a project called CryptoKitties. It was pretty popular back in the days. So people were minting digital cats, like picture of cats. How foolish is that? But yeah, people were doing that, and so a lot of people jumped in. And what happened as a result? The number of miners remained constant, and now there are a lot of transactions to cater to, but the block time is constant. So the fees increase because people wanted to prioritize their transaction more, and in this way, the fees increased, and you have to pay a lot more for your transaction to go through. So this is the gas problem. And then Ethereum right now, every block is around there's a thing called difficulty, which adjusts itself, the network, so that every block has a fixed interval of time. So the fixed interval of time is around 15 seconds in Ethereum. So which means if the Ethereum blockchain, right, every block needs to be of at least 14 or 15 seconds. This is to ensure that the blocks can be propagated within each other. So let's say we all are a part of the blockchain, we run a node ourselves. It's easier that we can propagate the blocks that we receive among us. So everyone has a copy of the same thing, which is the whole idea. And then this is some kind of limitation, right? Because a block, considered it as a box, and in a box you can put only as many transactions as you could possibly do within the limit. Because a box cannot be of unlimited size, right? And you have a box, you need to put the transaction, seal the box, and done. That your transaction is successful. But that box comes around every 15 seconds. So, and only let's say 10 transactions per second, which is quite slow. If you compare it to platforms like payment processors like Visa, because they process 1,000 transactions per second, right? And speed is of vital importance in everyday transaction. You probably wouldn't want to buy your coffee with Ethereum because that'll make you wait 15 seconds or even more, with Bitcoin 10 minutes and whatnot. So speed is a very crucial element. And then there's cheap transactions, which I mean, we can all agree that we want, right? And um, OMG has been a frontier in solving these problems, catering to these problems. So we have like our mainnet from the last year, and it has been OMG Plasma, which has been on mainnet. I'll talk to you about Plasma, it's a very novel research idea proposed by Vitalik Buterin. If you, he's the founder of Ethereum, and with Plasma, you're able to scale your transactions, which means you pay a lot less for any transaction that you do on Ethereum network, and also there are a lot many more transactions that can fit in a certain block. Now the common question is, how do you do it, right? I mean, how can you increase the scalability? We know from the blockchain trilemma that you can't have scalability if you have decentralization. You can't have security. You can't have security and decentralization if you have like high scalability. So how does that work? So Plasma is a good name, but what lies underneath is a framework. So what essentially I'm telling you is, I can take your transactions, I can process them, and then I can make my own blocks and I can send it to the main network. But the catch is, these transactions are secured in the way that if I do anything wrong, if I steal your funds, then you can challenge me on an open network on Ethereum, and then you can prove me wrong, and that means your funds are safe. So essentially, there's an off-chain operator or off-chain person, let's say, and what he does is he will take your transactions, he'll make his own blocks out of it, and then he'll submit these blocks to the Ethereum main chain. And note one thing: when you're submitting blocks to the Ethereum main network, you're just doing one transaction. It's not an actual block; it's a transaction. So with a single transaction, you're fitting 2 to the power 16 amount of transactions, right? And that's super cool. And what if I do something wrong? If I do something wrong, there's always the smart contract which allows you to challenge me. If you challenge me and you prove me that I'm wrong mathematically, then you get back your funds and it's totally safe. So Plasma is amazing for payments. You have like low fees. I'll give you a comparison. For Ethereum, you might have noticed it was around $50 to $100 for every single transaction. I mean, why would you pay $50 in fees if you wanted to send $50 to your friend, right? So
Excuse me, sir.
Plasma, yeah, sure,
Sir,
go ahead.
sir, if you can if you are taking low fees, means you are charging low gas fees. So why you are doing so? Because you can earn a better by doing so on Ethereum blockchain. Because at the end of the day, you are doing the same thing, that you are just sending your block to the main Ethereum blockchain. Why can't you do over there only, or the original one? Because in that you will also get the high gas fee and also block rewards too. So why you are doing
Right.
so?
Okay, that's a very nice question. Why take block off chain, right? Why have the Plasma blocks off chain? Why not in
Hello. I think internet. There might be some internet problem with Saradhi. Okay. All right. Let's figure that out. Right. Okay. So, right. I think we were in the middle of that. In the meanwhile, if there are some questions, definitely you guys can ask it. Right. The chat box is open. Please write it in the chat. I think there is some internet issue with Soradeep, and he try to get back as soon as possible. Yeah. If there are some questions, I think the session is about to end, right? So what we can do is we can take some questions quickly. In the meanwhile, when Soradeep arrives. Yeah. If there are some, please enter that in the chat box. Why are the videos still off? Right. I can see only one or two here. Yeah. Even Ashad is shy. I think Ashad, being the event organizer, I think he's shy. Come on, Ashad. Don't be shy, please.
I have kind of bandwidth problems.
It's all right. It's all right. Definitely. Just show me your faces. That is what is essential. Yeah, yeah. Soradeep is here. Soradeep, please.
Oh,
Are you there?
yeah, I'm back. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Very sorry about that. I lost my network, but I'm back. And
Definitely.
this happened to Plasma. But yeah, let's tackle the question because it's
Yeah.
decentralized. So that's the power
Definitely.
of blockchain. Cool. So back to the question. The question was why not have it on mainnet, right? And why have this off-chain blocks on Plasma? Why have a second layer, right? That's a genuine question. So the problem is, like I mentioned, um, for every Ethereum transaction, you're paying a gas, but comparing it to Plasma, for every Plasma transaction, you're not paying a gas. You're paying a fee just so that the operator can cover his transaction to the main network. So if I am a Plasma operator, you send me a transaction, you're not paying for gas, but you're paying a part fee for so what I'll do is I'll collect 100 transactions from you. I'll put them in a Merkle tree. So Merkle tree is a mathematical object which can help you prove certain things mathematically instead of revealing everything. So what I'll do is I'll take hundreds of your transactions and I'll make it a Merkle tree. I'll maintain my own state record, so it's separate from Ethereum. And then what I'll do is of these 100 transactions, I'll commit it back to Ethereum. So it's essentially one transaction to Ethereum, but then I have all of your hundreds transactions within the single transaction. So these blocks are technically different than what Ethereum's blocks are. For Ethereum, you're paying gas fees, you're doing a normal transactions, but this is pseudo centralized where I keep a record of your states, your balances, and then I commit all of these states periodically on every block, so that those records are there in the main network, and you can prove me wrong. And the reason I say pseudo centralized is because it may look that I'm centralized, I'm taking care of your transactions, and I can steal, but that's not the case because mathematically it's absolutely possible to keep your funds safe and challenge me whenever I do something which is malicious. And talking about why should we have separate blocks and not have this in Ethereum? Because what we're essentially doing is increasing scalability, right? We're putting thousands transaction in a single transaction, or we're keeping records of 1,000 transactions with just one transaction and one gas fee. So that's super fast because we're not waiting for Ethereum's block time of 15 seconds. We're waiting to publish them, but we're not waiting to create them. And then there's no gas fees because I am the operator and I'll manage your state routes. So there's no gas fees there. Any other questions before I move on? Or does that answer your question?
I think we should
Cool.
move further. Yeah.
Cool. So we heard about what OMG Plasma was, right? I mean, let's just say Plasma because it's a framework at the end. So great for payments, low fees. But what's the catch? I mean, why don't people just dive into it? Because smart contracts, right? You heard about smart contracts, the pieces of code that run on Ethereum blockchain. These cannot be run on Plasma. So the way it's designed, the way the framework works, you cannot put code on the blockchain and make run transaction against it. So you can only make payments. I can send 5 ETH to Vinayak. Vinayak can send back to me. I can do some swapping, some exchanges, but what I cannot do is it's hard to have like really like developers level smart contracts. It's very hard to do that. So what can be the solution? There are some other scalability solutions such as optimistic rollups. These might sound like the sound of it might be complex. I mean, what is optimistic rollup, right? But it's very simple. It's very similar to Plasma. And just note that the extra thing that optimistic rollup, this technology, has over Plasma is that it has smart contract support. So how amazing is that? Now you have good scalability, you have cheaper fees, and you also have smart contracts. Why use Ethereum anymore? I mean, you also get the same consensus, same level of security as Ethereum. And how do we compare it to Plasma? So, well, since optimistic rollups do have certain advantages, there are slight disadvantages as well if you compare it to Plasma. So these are, you have a good number of increase in transaction speeds, but it's not as good as Plasma because Plasma is simpler, it's cheaper. And then you have slightly higher fees because you have to commit something called the transaction call data periodically in addition. So that results in slightly higher fees. But again, like these are two flavors of layer 2 scaling solutions which you can use today, and be sure to check them out. You could always like send money among your friends as cheap as 20 cents, 10 cents, even when Ethereum is at the peak of 100 ways, $100 of transaction fees. And yeah, I mean, if you don't have any other question, I can move on to the next section and tell you more about how you can be involved or you can be beneficial for this whole revolution of making Ethereum more scalable and making Ethereum more usable. So at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is we're trying to make Ethereum better, we're trying to make blockchain better so it's easier to adopt, it's easier to use. And yeah, that's the goal. If you have any other questions, please feel free to ask them. Can be anything. Cool. I guess we can move on to the next section then. So I'll just quickly mention. I mean, all of you, some of you are designers, some of you are coders, but all of you are students, pre-students, and then you might have different interests. Blockchain development might not be your initial or the first thing that you have in your mind, but there's a lot of ways by which you can be involved, right? If you're a designer, you are a blockchain developer, you are a technical writer, whatever it may be, there's always a chance. We put up several bounties and you can come in, you can work and you can claim them, you can work with us. There's a whole lot of Discord community that you can interact with and learn blockchain. So the best part, I would say, I mean, from a very unbiased perspective is that whenever you actually meet other people in blockchain or actually work on anything, it can be anything like design or something, with a blockchain project or a startup or a decentralized distributed ledger company, you get to learn a lot of things in this area. So if blockchain or Ethereum interests you even a slight bit, I would totally encourage you to probably come hang in our Discord and see what bounties are up there. There are a lot of things that you can do, like have fun, talk, and stuff like that. But yeah, passing over the mic to Vinayak.
Yeah, definitely, Sauradeep. I think this is one of the best things that you guys can actually do right now. Like, just stay connected. This is one of the things that I did. Right. What I did was, I tried to join as many channels as possible. Right, and tried to stay connected with the specifically Indian crypto community. Right, because right now it's very small, right, and they'll definitely welcome you, they'll teach you, even they'll provide you with things that you want an answer to. Right now, what I can actually do is I can actually reach out to anybody, from the community and ask a question like, I have this and this so and so doubt, please clear this out, right? Everybody will jump on that opportunity to clear it, right? They should just know the answer to that question. That's it. So this is the crypto community that we have. This is the community of developers that we have, It's everybody so supportive. So what I'll suggest you guys is join these groups, like ask your questions, whatever it is, whatever problem it is that you guys are facing, just ask it. Ask and we shall get. So something like that is going to definitely happen here in this community right now, because but this community needs is more developers, and you guys can definitely be a part of it, right? If there are questions, we can take it, or else we can definitely end the lecture as well. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, if we were not able to answer them, please feel free to join these groups and ask it there. We'll definitely reach out to you guys and try to answer it in the best possible way that there is. We hope that it was good, like you guys at least got to know some information about the blockchain itself, right? We do hope that, and all the very best. I think there are not a lot of questions here. I think we were way too much clear, Swaradip.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Sir, I
Yes,
had
sorry.
a question. Recently there was quite a stir in the international community after Elon Musk accused blockchain of too much high energy consumption, and it was basically due to its internal consensus algorithm of proof of work. But
Yeah.
how close are we to use a proper there are many consensus algorithms, but why are the less power why are the ones which utilizes less power not used on a large scale?
That's a great question. Vinayak, do you wanna, or should I catch it?
You can take it. Yeah, Swaradip, you can take it.
Good. That's a great question. So that's a genuine question. I have to. I mean, why if there are better options, why not take it? Because they're not made enough to be good enough as of now. That's the prompt answer. So we're moving towards that. We're moving towards proof of stake, which is very green, which doesn't require all these machines to be running and computing on those math that Vinayak showed you earlier today. But yeah, we're moving towards there. ETH2 is probably gonna start a full-fledged proof of stake model, and it might sound a little bit complicated, but I'll go there. So there's this thing called Beacon Chain, and they're running it. So slight small version of proof of stake, which is very green consensus mechanism, is already running. It's being tested. So as soon as we can finalize on that, if we see that it's good enough, we can totally transition over to that. The only thing that keeps it from making it very usable today is that the complexity, and then the concepts of decentralization. So whenever you do something, you're playing with the consensus mechanisms, right? And if anything goes wrong, or if anything is something which is not desired, then it can totally break the whole sense of the system, right? Because for any other architecture or any other stack, if something goes wrong, it's perfectly okay. But if something goes wrong in Ethereum in a blockchain, it totally doesn't make sense, right? And we're moving there slowly. We're moving to proof of stake. And also a good thing that you mentioned proof of stake is because these layer 2 scaling solutions that are built to make Ethereum faster, these are taking transactions off chain, right? So they're helping in some way to make Ethereum more greener as it is of today. So because you're not actually mining all these transactions, you're just mining one, like I said, you're mining one transactions for 1,000 of others transactions, right? So yeah, we're moving to a greener world. We're moving to a better system. It's just blockchain is a very nascent technology, and it will take time for us to reach there and to make it better. And you guys are actually the ones who can actually make this tech even better. So yeah, definitely consider taking small steps and reaching them, and don't be overwhelmed. It's complicated as well, but small steps always work. So take those small steps, try to learn about it more, and it's definitely going to be beneficial for you.
Swaradip, we have some questions in the chat as well. I think you can take those as well. This is good questions.
But yeah, I have a question.
Awesome.
Sorry, I interrupted. The current scenario of the blockchain, like there is a transaction fee and all those things that are quite not familiar to Indian customers and Indian people. So do you think what will how much time will it take for blockchain to become a relevant technology in the current Indian scenario to for every common people to use it, because it's quite new for every one of us?
That's a good question about blockchain adoption, right? So yeah, I think when it comes to new tech, we Indians are we're very late to actually realize that. And then there are like these small barriers, right, of transaction fees, and then um, of waiting for your transaction, or even the genuinity of any crypto. So it all sounded very fishy in the beginning, but then the thing with adoption is keeps on getting better if it's something good actually, if it's not crappy. So I guess for the scene of India, I myself have worked around several of these um, Indian crypto enthusiastic communities, and I think it's growing bigger. We're getting better. We have like more people coming in, like yourself, who are looks very interested in crypto, and totally depends on us, right? I mean, we are the generation that's gonna understand this technology, and we don't expect it to be understood by maybe our grandparents or parents. So yeah, it totally depends on us how fast we adopt, and it's a very crucial time because it's very nascent, and you can always like add a lot of value in it today, as of today.
Yeah. Let me add one more thing to it, right? Recently, we heard about one of the stats. So this is a practical stat. I don't really remember the number that it was. WazirX came out to be the topmost exchange to acquire new users, right? And WazirX, it has left Binance, all the exchanges in the past couple of months. That data was of the past couple of months. So just think about how many Indians are have started using WazirX. Because the volume that WazirX got in the last couple of months was more than any of those exchanges, right? And just have a look at Indian exchanges and have a look at their numbers and how they have grown. Like, it's way off the charts.
And this is sorry, sir. I was saying this is just the price aspect of it, right? The trading aspect of it. And if you look at all these other huge things that are being built on blockchain, opportunities are endless.
Absolutely endless. So all of these protocols that there are, a lot of value in all of those protocols. Even a lot of Indian protocols are doing good, right? You can have a look at Biconomy, and you can definitely have a look at OMG. You can all of these things. They're bringing new technologies every day in Indian market. So developers, they have a lot of scope for sure. No? There is one question about the about the per annual income asked by Shubham Singh. So definitely, this is your area to cater to.
Cool. So yeah, I'll probably I'll give you an answer, which is, I mean, it depends, right? Again, it depends on what work you're doing and what role you're doing, and because in blockchain even there are several ways we could work with. So but yeah, this is the main question, right? We're here today for. So considering software engineer salary in India, what he earns, I think a blockchain engineer earns 10 times more than that. So of course it depends between companies and between the job roles, how good of a project you're working for, what exactly you're doing. But yeah, the demand is huge, right? The demand is enormous, and India is just catching up with it. Not just India, you could always find a place to work with a good project elsewhere, even because moving to a remote world. So opportunities are really endless. You get 10 to 15 times more, or maybe let's not say 15, but yeah, let's settle with 10 times more than what a software engineer could earn.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, definitely worth checking out if that's the motive you're looking for, because right now is the time, because their supply is really less. If you're one of them, you're unique. So
yes, definitely. If you're good, right, 10, 15 times is also not that, it's achievable very much. If you're good, 15 times, 20 times is achievable than a normal software engineer that is going to get, right? So definitely most lucrative job that there is for developers right now, right? And okay.
Some other questions I see.
Yeah. You can take one from Milind as well. I think he must be
Cool.
waiting. Yeah.
How will the advent of, so I'll read up the question, how will the advent of Ethereum 2.0 change the issues mentioned on the older Ethereum blockchain? Will Plasma still be applicable? That's a great question. So with Ethereum 2.0, there are several plans to have like layer 1 scaling. We talked about layer 2 scaling today, which is a layer on top of Ethereum. With Ethereum 2.0, they're introducing something called sharding, which is scaling on the layer 1 level, on Ethereum level. So that's going to make transactions faster, probably much faster than it's today. And then there's always a chance to always like have. I mean, the whole plan is to increase Ethereum scalability by Ethereum 2.0. If you haven't heard about it, so what that will do to Plasma, interesting. So what Plasma does is it improves upon what Ethereum is today. So even if there's Ethereum 2.0, there's always a scope for layer 2s, because what layer 2s essentially does is actually make your things 100%, 100x better. So if the base layer is better, your Plasma is 100x better than that. So because again, remember, you're putting all those transactions, 100 transactions in a single transaction. So if the single transaction's price is reduced, doesn't matter, we're doing 100 times even lesser. And yeah, I mean, there are several other things that Plasma does, which will be Plasma or optimistic rollups, which will still be relevant in terms of throughput, in terms of cash cost after Ethereum 2.0 when that comes. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'll fit that for an answer, and probably to learn more about it, you could come hang in with us, because it's gonna be quite descriptive. Is there any other question?
Hello, sir.
Blockchain? Yeah.
Sir, I have a question. Like, as you mentioned that Plasma takes thousands of transactions and means make them in a box and give this transaction to the main network. So before giving it to the main network, Plasma is acquiring various transactions. So in that time, there might be some security issues. Like it is actually violating the decentralization part for that time, now, sir, until it is on the main network.
Good thing that you pointed that out. Yeah. So let's go back to the concept of pseudo centralization, right? So what I said was there was a Plasma operator. It can be a company, it can be you. So you're taking care of my transactions. I send the transaction on you, and you bundle them and put them on Ethereum. Are we following this, right? And then what happens is there are several of these challenge, commit, reveal schemes. So what a commit reveal scheme means is if you check the two layers or the two chains, and then you notice there's a flaw or there's something who's trying to act malicious, can be me, because I am collecting all these transactions. I can probably give myself 1,000 ethers, right? I can always do that because I'm a central authority here. But the catch is, you can always prove that I was acting malicious, because there's this smart contract which lies on Ethereum, and Ethereum is secure, right? We assume that Ethereum is secure because it has a consensus mechanism to it. So whenever I act maliciously or I submit a fraudulent block to the Ethereum smart contract, you can say, no, that guy cheated, he's taking away my money. So what happens is a challenge is brought in, and then there's a time period, there's a fixed time period upon which you can act and prove that no, the challenge was false, I didn't do anything wrong. And now this challenge game is what prevents me or anyone from the Plasma platform to actually cheat and steal funds. So though it is centralized in some way, it is not centralized, but I would say someone is taking care of your transactions, but we overcome that problem through having these challenge reveal schemes, right? You can always challenge anyone and say that no, that was false, and you have sufficient time for it, so your funds are always safe that way. Does that make sense? Good.
I think there's one in the chat as well. Are the blockchain opportunities for freshers in par with the opportunities for experienced blockchain developers? Not at par, definitely. But you know what's the most important thing here is you don't really need much experience right now. You can get an experience of maybe 3 months, maybe 6 months, or a year right? But I believe is most of you might be in your third year as well, right? So in your coming year, you might be able to get a good experience in blockchain development, and you can definitely apply for companies that there are. And if you have basic knowledge, I don't think so anybody will anybody will question you, like if you want to go towards it or not. And after that, after getting a year a year of experience in the chain, in any of the companies that there are, right? Definitely your value will increase many folds then, like 5-10 times fold, like it definitely will increase then. So your rising graph is going to be very steep than in any other if you go in any other company, or for that matter if you go in any other development area. And if you go in blockchain development, your graph is going to be very steep. So this is what is provided by the blockchain community right now. This is only available for like maybe 1 year, 2 years, or maybe 3 years down the line. It's just an opportunity that is available right now. So what I'll suggest is go ahead, grab this opportunity. So this is unless and until it's abstain, right? So if you guys have any questions, definitely you guys can come to the groups. Really loved the audience, so interactive, but a very shy audience, definitely. But really interactive. Loved the audience, really. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to share them on the groups that we have, right? And we'll try to come back to you guys, right? Really loved the interaction, and really great one. From till now, this was one of the greatest that we did, right? I think
Absolutely.
we agree with it, right? So
Really good
nice
questions. Yeah.
Right. We didn't even know that we have 20 minutes per the time that was allotted to us. But everybody stick with us. That's really nice, right? So stay connected, right? And keep developing. All right then, guys. Bye bye.
See you guys. Cheers.
Bye, sir.
Sir, can I ask something?
Sure, go ahead. Of
Sir,
course.
first of all, good evening, sir. Sir, as you are first year batch, so sir, it is something new for us. So can you suggest some resource for YouTube or any site through which we can learn?
Yeah,
Sure.
definitely. What we can do is, even we had a slide here, like of some of the resources that you guys can go through. What I'll ask is, for my team to share these resources with you, right? And we can even, what you can do best is you can go to developer docs of any network that you want to build upon. Like if you want to build upon OMG, definitely, just search for the developer docs of OMG and get started. The developer docs are so easy. You just have to read it and then go through it, right? And there might not be a lot of YouTube videos available, but the text is self-explanatory. Now, being a developer, I never go towards YouTube videos. I always go towards documentation and reading stuff, right? So that is the best way of getting started, right? But I think we can even share some of the videos if there are, right? And
Yeah.
the team can get back to you guys. Stay in the groups, right? And ask such questions in the group. Just see the reply that you are gonna get, right? This is what I'll suggest you.
Absolutely. And Google, remember, Google is your best friend, okay?
Yeah, Google is your best friend.
It's always going to cater to your answers. Yeah, questions.
Definitely.
Sorry.
Right. Some of the links are even shared in the chat box. You guys can go ahead, right? Yeah. So,
Sir,
Thank you, sir.
as we can see in the last slide, there quite some links given. Like, can we get the link for the PPT?
yeah. Not. I think the team will share the whole this thing in the groups that are shared. Right. You guys can join the Telegram group here. There has been a link sent. There's a link sent right now in the chat box, right? And we'll share all these resources in that group, right? So that you guys can go through all these resources after this, right? So it will be available to all. That's not a problem. Even I'll ask my team to send out messages to you guys. Arshad, you can take care of stuff from there, right? So we can send it to you. You can spread it out in your community as well.
Someone raise a hand.
Okay. I hope that answers your question, Arshad. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Great. All right then, guys. Have a nice day. All right. We can end this meeting now, I think. Right, Saurabh? Everything was
Yeah.
good by everybody.
Everything
Okay.
was perfect. Awesome.
Great. Awesome.